The hangar smelled of oil and steel. Engines whined in the background, the sound bouncing against the cavernous walls. Young officers stood in formation, their boots aligned like clockwork. Sunlight cut through the massive doors, painting harsh white stripes across the floor. And there, just slightly apart from the rest, stood Lieutenant Kara Holt. Her hands were tight behind her back, her posture perfect, but her eyes steady, unblinking. Most didn't know her. She was new to this base, transferred quietly, without the fanfare that usually followed a rising officer. All they noticed was a tattoo, a small ink mark curling just beneath her sleeve. Not flashy, not loud, but in the silence of the hangar, it was enough to spark whispers. It was Ensign Miller who broke the silence first. He leaned slightly toward the others, his voice low but sharp enough to cut. "See that? She thinks this is a biker bar? Tattoos don't belong on officers." A few smirked. Some looked away, but Kara didn't flinch. Miller stepped closer, his voice rising. "What is that anyway? A flower? A snake? No, wait." He squinted. "Looks like some tribal nonsense. Who gave you permission to walk into uniform with graffiti on your arm?" The laughter was quick, harsh. It echoed, filling the hangar louder than the engines. Kara's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She had always known how to take silence like a weapon. Words could betray. Silence could guard. She had carried that silence from one base to another, across oceans, across deserts. Always new, always the outsider. The tattoo? It wasn't for them. It wasn't for anyone in that hangar. It was for one man. Her father, a man who once wore the same uniform, who had vanished in a mission no one spoke about anymore. The ink was the only part of him she carried openly. The whine of the engine slowed. A sharp whistle cut through the air. All hands, attention. Boots struck the ground in unison. The Admiral was entering. Admiral Gaines. Silver hair, hard eyes. A man whose presence pressed down like a weight. The hangar went silent. Even Miller stood stiff now, lips pressed shut. The Admiral walked the line. His shoes clicked against concrete, the sound sharp, rhythmic. Eyes forward. No one dared breathe too loud. Then he stopped, right in front of Kara. The Admiral's gaze dropped. Not at her eyes, not at her nameplate, but at the tattoo. The room seemed to freeze. Every officer's eyes flickered, desperate to see what would happen. Would he reprimand her? Strip her down in front of everyone? Instead, the Admiral's hand rose, and slowly he saluted, directly to the tattoo. The silence cracked. Miller's mouth opened, then shut again. Kara's voice was steady, low, almost a whisper. "You knew him, didn't you?" The Admiral's eyes didn't blink. His reply was simple, direct. "Your father saved my life." Murmurs broke through the line. Some officers turned their heads in disbelief. Kara's breath caught, but she held her stance. "He never came back," she said. The Admiral nodded, slow. "Because he stayed behind. To cover us. That mark you wear," he pointed to the tattoo, "was painted on the side of his aircraft. I'd recognize it anywhere." The hangar was silent again, but this time the weight was different, heavy with truth. Miller's smirk was gone, his face pale, eyes locked on the ground. The tattoo wasn't random. It wasn't rebellion. It was memory. Her father's squadron had carried that emblem, inked on their planes, etched into their helmets. A small design, almost forgotten by the Navy's history books. But not by the men who lived. Not by the Admiral who owed his breath to it. Kara had carried it not for show, but for silence, for remembrance. The Admiral toned, his voice sharp enough to slice the air. "Officers, never mock what you don't understand." His eyes swept the line. "This mark is not graffiti. It's honor, paid for in blood." He paused, letting the words sink. Then his voice dropped, firm, final. "Lieutenant Holt was what most of you will never know. Sacrifice." He stepped back. "Carry on." The formation dispersed slowly, uneasily. But something had shifted. No one laughed now. No one dared whisper. Miller kept his eyes down as Kara walked past him. He opened his mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to explain. But she didn't stop. She didn't need to. Some truths defended themselves. Later that night, Kara sat alone at her bunk. The barracks were quiet, the faint hum of lights above her. She rolled up her sleeve. The tattoo caught the glow, dark against her skin. For years it had been her secret burden, a reminder of a father who never came home. But tonight, it wasn't just hers anymore. Someone else had seen it, acknowledged it, saluted it. Her hand brushed the ink, slow, gentle, as if she were touching his memory. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to smile. Some marks are more than ink. They are history. They are sacrifice. They are the stories carried by those who remain silent until silence itself is honored. If this video touched your heart, like, comment, and subscribe.